We hired all of them on, I think it was a Tuesday, and by Friday they had fired every single one of them. And I'm like, just for not having the hustle, right?
When you're responsible for placing people into high stakes environments, and you're also the one covering payroll, the decisions don't stay separate, they stack. Darren Tompkins built his firm from scratch. No debt, no office, no outside capital, in an industry where a bad read on a person has consequences on both sides of the placement. This is a conversation about what that kind of work does to judgment over time. What does your day to day actually look like when you're running something like you're doing?
Every day is a little different. Every week's a little different. But again, as an owner operator, it changes daily almost.
Does it ever feel like at the end of the day you have trouble turning it off?
I'm a terrible sleeper anyway, and I will typically sometimes wake up in the middle of the night thinking about work, right? And you have good days and you have bad days. You just kind of roll the punches and celebrate your wins.
Yeah, because if you're global, so you have multiple time zones you're running at once. I would imagine that maybe you had bad sleep issues beforehand, but that could contribute to it.
This is full time for me. When it's time to turn it off, you have to be able to turn it off. Otherwise, it'll just grind you to the ground.
So breaking down the company itself and when you're the staffing component, placements, obviously you're expecting them all to go well. And whenever you're putting someone in a position, you want the client to be happy. Could you walk us through its time, maybe when it didn't go as planned and what was actually at stake when if it did happen?
I call it human capital, and that's really what it is. When you're dealing with people, a million things can go wrong. I mean, even with the process as streamlined as ours, there's always something that it's never the process, it's the people involved where things can go sideways. I've been there personally where I've been interviewing and then they're like, well, we didn't select you. Then all of a sudden, hey, by the way, you got the job because the number one wanted too much money or didn't want to relocate or whatever the situation was at the time.
And it's your responsibility that it didn't work out. Even though you did all the vetting in the beginning, it still comes back as, hey, your fault.
We're doing a big job right now for an oil and gas company. It's executive succession planning, where the private company president is looking to retire in the next 5 to 6 years, maybe 7 years, but their VP of Ops is retiring now, which this means this next hire, who's the VP of Ops, will be rolled into the president's job eventually, right? So it's been a almost 6-month ordeal. People have been flying in and out of state, like this whole big deal. We're down to the last two guys, and we're literally coming to the end. But I'm still having to go to the HR manager of the parent company, like, hey, you're still talking to these guys, right? Because every now and again I'll get a text, hey, I haven't heard anything. I'm like, well, crap, this is a big deal, right? Because again, I've seen situations on the executive level where all of a sudden we don't want any more candidates. So the client will tell you that. And then all of a sudden it just all falls apart. People just don't take the job. They want more money, whatever. They're trying to hustle. And we're talking, $500,000 a year type positions, and you just don't know what drives somebody from not getting again over the finish line.
That's a contrast because your background is Army, right? Oil, gas, before you built this. What can you draw from those environments, in pressure situations, what that actually feels like in those worlds for someone who's listening? That's, again, those are some pretty big industries that you are a part of.
I got into this. I went head first into the recruiting because throughout the time my career, I have been hit up by some really shitty recruiters and some really terrible company owners and executives where it's like, I could have done this way better. How did you get this job? And I also tell everybody, coming out of the military, when I took my first professional job in oil and gas, my big challenge was in the Army, if you were an NCO like I was or an officer like I was, Joe, if you suck, I'm going to tell you exactly how you suck. And the Army leadership teaches you a lot of different things that make sense in the civilian world, but you got to tweak it a little bit. Get rid of the nuances of that. And it did take a long time, not going to lie. Like the project planning and stuff, that's the same, whether you're in the military or civilian world. But you're dealing with people who aren't hitting the same timelines that you want, right? And then when in oil and gas, when I was in the IT and engineering support, it's still a very deadline required job. Now that I'm more into like business development and we still have timelines and stuff, but it's like I do meetings now. It's like, man, you got 5 minutes to show up to this thing, or I'm just going to hang up, right? I'm very much more laid back nowadays. There's what I'm trying to get at. I'm very passionate about what I do, but again, I'm here to help people, and I'm not really like the buck stops here. We got to make millions of dollars this year, or everybody's getting fired kind of guy. Clients are different. Some are very demanding, and they are expecting you to show their vision to the candidate. So there are situations where it's like you got to be a hard ass because they're going to be a hard ass on them, just the way their business runs. Then there's a lot of different cultural things that people do to make their business run, whatever the sector.
From your experience, how can you paint that picture for people about something that might be harder than it looks from the outside?
I can tell you what our process looks like, right? So I get hit up all the time on LinkedIn because that's generally where we live in this. Or, somebody's applying to a job, whatever the job is, and there's already 100 people that have applied, and they get really dejected. It's like, well, why bother? They've already got 100 candidates. That is not true, because people apply to anything nowadays trying to get their foot in the door, and so of that 100, half of them are going to be rejected immediately because they have the zero qualifications. Then you have another 25% or so that maybe they have the right qualifications, but they're missing something like the correct certifications or whatever. So honestly, if you're 100% qualified for the job, as it is, when you do a comparison, then yeah, if you think you're in the top 10%, 15%, just go for it, because somebody's going to pick it up eventually, because all these other yahoos are getting swept out. People just don't realize that.
For you, has that happened where maybe a bad hiring call? How does it really sit with you afterwards, once it comes back to you, and someone you thought was really good for the job ended up being a complete nightmare for the client?
Yeah, so we do what we consider executive recruiting. We try to find white collar jobs, but occasionally, if it's a slow time of year, like beginning of the year is actually pretty slow, because that's when people are doing their budgets, and usually March is when bonuses happen, and then people are hiring again, right? We have a client that does distribution for valves and fittings and stuff like that. They had asked us hey, can you do like temp workers, like literally like warehouse type stuff? I'm like, that's not our thing. Yeah, we're set up for it. We have our our LLC covers that kind of stuff, our insurance. Yeah, we'll give it a shot. I'm like, good. We need like 4 and 5 of these people, and these are just $17, $18 an hour gigs, right? And we hired all of them on, I think it was like a Tuesday, and by Friday they had fired every single one of them. And I'm like, just for not having the hustle, right? And we're in a town that is oil and gas centric, where there's a lot of these jobs around. Again, they'll leave. 50 cents more tomorrow from this other place, we'll go. I like you guys, but I don't want to do this anymore because it's so much work. It's the same process. We've had, again, situations on the executive level where all of a sudden you rely on the client to say, no, we're good. We got enough candidates. It's fine. Okay, we'll shut the search down. And then all of a sudden nobody's there. Dealing with a client right now that the hire, which is a director level role, we'll call it that, has been there, I think, about 8 months now. They're finally getting around to realizing we got to let her go, and they can't come back to us because that's well beyond our guarantee range for the hire. It's usually like 3 months for generic, and then it usually ends up being 6 months and longer depending on the role. But this person, we will sometimes place people, if we have a good relationship with the client, the company, where, yeah, we'll put them in there. They may not be the person that we wanted, the client selects them, but we can also get more work out of them if they're on a certain level where they can sign documentation and whatnot. So that's what we were looking at for this. That has all gone away. They are going to be replacing her. I'm assuming they're going to use us. But that kind of messes up your entire year plan, because we had this whole thing lined out with this person, and now they're no longer there. Now we're having to escalate it to the executive team to like, well, she said this, can we still do it? Fortunately, this week they did say yes. So, but I've just got to like all of a sudden look back at the old presentation paperwork and get them interested in it, where it would have been a slam dunk before. Taking
your experience back in the Army and then now running your own thing, is it fair to say it's hard, but it's a different kind of hard than maybe anything you were doing before?
Personal accountability, Army was way easier because you didn't have a choice. Again, it came down to you're going to be at formation at this time, 15 minutes ahead. And if you're not, then it's your ass, and here's all the things we're going to do to you if you don't do it. In the deployment side, people can lose their lives, get hurt. So it's all about accountability. Here, again, it depends on the level. If it's somebody that comes into a role where they're hiring 100,000 of these people, then they may not take it seriously. It's a personal pride in some of this stuff, especially in the blue collar jobs. They'll do it, but the client also has to, that's part of the job, making sure the client is paying enough. Sometimes they think they're paying market rate, but they're really not. And then why can't they hire anybody or keep them on? Because all your competitors are paying percentage higher than whatever it is. And you have to coach clients on that. It's more about coaching rather than ordering people around at this point, especially for, again, the director level, senior manager type level.
So when you're building the company, coming from that world and building this one, were there points where you thought, I think I'm sure in what I'm doing here and how I'm putting this business forward, but you were actually reading it wrong in the moment as you were kind of getting started?
Yeah, I was very lucky where I got into the recruiting business working for a boutique company. It was just me and one other person. And recruiting, you can be a recruiter or you can do like a full desk type thing where you're doing recruiting and you're bringing in clients, right? All of our original clients were my friends through networking. And so that laid the groundwork for when I decided to leave and do my own thing. I had the client base that came with me. So there was seed money from the very beginning. I'm very proud of the fact that we have no debt. We don't owe anybody anything. We just bootstrapped it all the way to where we are now. That is a very, and any new company owner will tell you I think it's a very small percentage of people that can say what I'm saying. Because again, it's like, I don't have to worry about loans or anything like making like, because everybody's remote, we don't have an office or anything like that where we got to worry about making rent or any of that weird overhead that a lot of big firms do. If I were to show up at Joe, you're going to be a prospective client, come to my office and we're in some kind of mid-rise or in a high-rise and we got the entire floor and hey, we're going to be in the conference room and here's my director of sales, here's the director of recruiting, here's two of our recruiters that'll probably be working with you, here's the admin, blah, 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 check out our new coffee machine. You'd be like, damn, no wonder this stuff is so expensive, whereas we're set up remote, again, I can undercut the next guy and they produce the same, better quality work. Now, some people will be like, big partnerships and whatnot, like the big four recruiting firms, they need to have people where they're in the same location. The only people that are in the same location are me and my wife, who's a CFO, and her home office is upstairs. Everybody else is literally worldwide. But we do a banger of a job, and that's why people keep coming back, because we undercut. We're just as fast, but we can scale faster than the next guy.
Right. No, that's true, because, again, if you're in the penthouse, someone's paying for it, and it's probably the client, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when do you ever have stretches throughout the year where things get harder for you and because you said Mondays might be your easy day, but are there periods throughout the year where things slow down, maybe this summer?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the holidays like anybody else, and it's the holidays through kind of like where we are now, kind of into Q1 again, because people are trying to figure out what their bonus structures are. HR is finalizing budgets for the year. People will stay in their job until they make that bonus. Oil and gas is always in March. So it does slow down, but I talk to masterminds and whatnot where it's like any business has their good months and then they have their bad months. It's really hard unless you're a mega core McDonald's or something like that, where every month is like awesome, right? The real world thing that happened to me is basically when October 31st happens, everybody's the only thing anybody's ever talking about is the holidays at that point, right? So things slow down a heck of a lot. And I approached my wife at the end of October last year. It's like, look, here's everything. She's a finance person. She's like, we're looking good. We have recurring revenue. We're good until everything happens. Then I'm like, you're sure about that, right? Yes. Okay. Well, I'm going to go play PlayStation for the next 8 hours, and don't worry. I'm not going to worry about the income. We finished off some projects that ended in January. Now I'm like trying to replace that revenue with other things. We're hitting so hard on BD right now, and I'm doing a lot of podcasts. This is great marketing for anybody. And once people think you're an expert, even though I might be a bullshit artist. They're going to start coming at you with questions, which generally leads to helping people out and getting some work out of them.
Well, then on the flip side, are there the seasons where you're grinding and you feel like it's just nonstop?
When summer vacations start, June, July, we're usually hitting it really hard. Summertimes here in Texas are big work days because we have rain that happens here on the Gulf Coast, but it's usually, split. So people that are, especially on the construction side, they're banging it out right now. That's great. I'd rather be busy than bored any day. I'm fortunate again because we're remote. I don't have to do a whole lot of traveling. It's making your life around you rather than the life of the business.
When you're in that upcoming season, do you feel that you get more tired in that, or are you able to balance it out because you're used to it by now?
I balance it out for sure, man. Like anybody that owns a business will tell you got to carve out your time for your personal time. I play pickleball Monday mornings about midway because I like doing it and I got the time. And again, Mondays are slow. I do like the busy times because I like hustling. I like being able to go to staff and like, hey, man, we're going to make this income this month from this new contract. Most of our business is referrals. I have a sales team that just started going last month. They're getting meetings and they are going to pay for themselves. But everything's referral, and it's through networking that we have and friends of ours that make recommendations or somebody that sees this. And that does make things a heck of a lot easier rather than, again, having to call Joe up. Hey, do you need recruiting for XYZ? Okay, let's get together. Let me pitch this to you and all that. I know that there's probably 20 other people behind me that are going to be doing the same thing. And it's relationship building. It always is. It always has been. And a lot of companies don't know that, which is why you'll get calls from all over the world for people that just ask you if you need whatever bullshit. And on the recruiting side,
I'm sure you get this question a lot, but AI, how that's going to impact what you do, whether it's positive, negative, and your industry as a whole.
Yeah, so we've embraced AI. I did it when I first started the company. We based everything around it. So I'll tell you the process. Whether somebody applies to a job or we have to find them, which is called sourcing, we will take that resume and we will run it against our AI we've been programming for the last couple of years. Against the job description. And if it gives us a 1 to 10 with the decimal point kind of score. I base it like Dave Portnoy's pizza review. There's no such thing as a 10, but if you can get to like 9.2 to like 9.4, you're top of the game, right? So usually 8.8 to 9.4, when 9.4 is very rare, that's a quality candidate on paper. Then we'll do an AI scan to make sure that the resume wasn't done by AI, because that happens a lot nowadays. Then we will do a interview, one of my recruiters or me, and we will then go back and run it again as a complete package. And it usually goes up a point something or other, right, to get them up. If it goes down, something's really wrong, like something's definitely wrong on the resume side. Then we'll give it over to the client, and then we'll just do the regular interview, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, whatever rounds that they have. AI has cut our time down significantly. Yeah, it's probably going to take over at some point. There's always going to be the need for human interaction, but I couldn't tell you what the timeline of that would be. It just changes every day, I think there's a lot of sectors where it's going to go. Like, website developers, sorry guys, man, that's all gone. Graphic designers, that's probably all gone. It's happening fast, which is why we don't recruit for those jobs anymore, because we know that they're there. Copywriters and that kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of our email and stuff that you've probably tinkered around with is AI driven, and I can pick them out. It's when I see them when they're on the resume or when they come across an email, I can literally that's AI, as it comes out. And I'm kind of tired of it at this point, even though AI is new. But there's just the buzzwords that AI always uses, and it's like, God damn it, come on, man, just give me something authentic, and that'd be better than just looking at this amazing piece of paper in front of us,
Yeah. Oh, I agree. You can pick it out right away. There's so many of these, again, generic AI.
Dynamic
phrases.
is the worst freaking buzzword AI produces. Everybody's dynamic, like there's some kind of superhero, It used to be something cool to see on a resume. Now everybody has it. And as soon as I see it, I'm like, yeah, this is AI, and we have clients, make no mistake. Clients will scan it. And if it's over a certain percentage probability of AI, we're not interested because they do want people to show themselves old school style versus letting a computer do it.
So the clients are they embracing it to a degree, or does it really depend on the sector?
Depends on the sector, oil and gas in particular is it's a weird beast, man. I mean, it's incredibly profitable, but it's all based around what is a barrel of crude going for today. When it's high, they invest heavily in technology. When it's low, they pull all that stuff out. They put it in a hiatus. They lay tons of people off. And I lived that life for a long time as a contractor and working full time. It's very tiring, but it's still the same tech. You drill on the ground, you get this stuff out, then you transport it, then you sell it. It's very process and mechanically driven, which if you've ever seen a refinery, there's no way you can build this kind of stuff using robots. And it probably is a long time away from doing that. So those types of trades or designing or engineering, those are all safe for a long time. But I couldn't give you what that timeline is.
Well, how do you make decisions about your business for the future? Is that come into it when you're deciding, okay, because you mentioned at the top about what you're going to be doing for expanding and on the horizon. Does that factor into how you plan for the future?
It does. And so recently we did lose a client. We had a 2-year contract where we were actually there. They'd outsourced all of their recruiting to us. They declined the 2-year option because they're trying to bring it back in-house. They've attempted this like 3 times before since I've known them. I know they're going to come back to us because it never seems to work out for them, right? It depends on the department and it depends on their goals. And you, as a recruiting company, we typically partner with people that have long-term needs, partnerships, rather than just, well, Joe called up and he needs a sales director. And then we never hear from Joe again. We're always going to be pushing for long-term development because, again, if we can't gain that trust, then there's going to be somebody behind us that's going to try to gain your business if it's not done right. And the relationship building, the AI building, the AI can't replace that unless all of a sudden you're letting a computer make every single decision of your life.
When you lose a client, though, like you said, it happens. Because you seem like you're pretty set up though for success in terms of being remote, not having the high overhead. How does that affect you? Does it depend on the client and the size of their contract?
Yeah, I mean, so the what we were just talking about, it was recurring revenue every month because they were just paying us a set fee with some bonuses and stuff, and it was great. It was kind of like, if everything else goes to shit, at least we've got this, right? That I did take that pretty hard, even though it's written in the contract that they could potentially not do it. But I did use AI to kind of gather my thoughts. Looked at the Stoic files of Marcus Aurelius and stuff, and let's turn this into an opportunity rather than a loss. Get off your ass, get the sales team moving faster, and find new clients to replace that revenue, which is what we're in the process of doing. This all literally happened over the last few weeks. So it's brand new. It's been easier now that I'm looking at an opportunity to change my mindset and how I'm going to structure things going here on out.
So you're mostly active personally on LinkedIn for people that want to follow your work. How can people find you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us at Vader-Rey Companies, Vader-Rey Recruiting. Myself, Darren Tompkins. I'm very prevalent on there now. Website, we're on a bunch of different social stuff.
I wish you obviously all this success, and thank you for your time today.
All right, Joe, have a good one.
The decisions don't get harder. The reserve they draw from does.